For decades, the idea of the American dream has been deeply rooted in the minds of millions. The promise of opportunity, safety, and success pulled countless people across oceans and borders in search of a better life. For African Americans, however, that dream has often felt like a story told from someone else's perspective. Beneath the surface of progress and prosperity, many still live with the weight of inequality, systemic racism, and a quiet exhaustion that never seems to end. And now, something remarkable is happening. More than 300,000 African Americans have decided to leave the United States behind, packing up their lives and starting over in Africa. This isn't just about moving to another place. It's about returning to something that feels like home. For many, Africa represents more than a continent. It represents healing, connection, and belonging. After generations of being told their roots were lost, these modern-day pioneers are rediscovering a land that feels familiar in a way that words can barely describe. The reasons behind this movement are as personal as they are powerful. Some people leave because they're tired of living in fear of police violence, fear of discrimination, fear of being treated as less than human. Others are simply tired of struggling to survive in an economy that seems built to keep them down. Many have found that despite all their hard work, the dream still feels out of reach. Home ownership is harder. College debt is crushing. Job security feels fragile. And for those who see the news each night filled with racial tension, it's impossible not to wonder if the United States will ever truly change. So they start looking elsewhere. And for the first time in a long time, Africa is calling. Countries like Ghana, Rwanda, Senegal, and South Africa have opened their arms, welcoming African Americans who want to reconnect with their ancestral roots. Ghana's Year of Return in 2019 sparked a wave of curiosity that hasn't slowed down since. Thousands visited, many stayed, and word began to spread across social media. Life in Africa is different, peaceful, empowering, and surprisingly affordable. People who've made the move describe something deep, almost spiritual. They talk about walking through markets filled with faces that look like theirs, hearing languages that flow like music, feeling a sense of pride that runs in their blood. It's not about escaping America. It's about finding themselves again. There's a certain freedom in waking up each morning and not being defined by your skin color. In Africa, black isn't a label. It's simply life. Of course, the journey isn't easy. Moving to a different continent means starting over from scratch. There are language barriers, cultural adjustments, and moments of homesickness. Some find the pace of life slower, the systems unfamiliar, or the infrastructure less developed than what they're used to in the U.S. But for many, the trade-off is worth it. The peace they feel, the connection to community, and the chance to raise their children in a space that celebrates their heritage outweigh any challenge. Then there's the financial side. Africa, in many parts, offers a lower cost of living and growing opportunities for entrepreneurship. With remote work and digital business expanding, many African Americans are finding that they can live comfortably, even build wealth, while contributing to developing local economies. They're buying land, starting farms, opening schools, and investing in communities that need it. It is a kind of cycle of renewal. Those who were once taken from the continent now returning with skills, education, and resources to uplift it. Social media has played a massive role in fueling this movement. On platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, thousands of people are documenting their experiences, sharing everything from home tours in Ghana to reflections on how their mental health has improved since moving. Viewers back in the U.S. see them glowing with peace and purpose, and it sparks something inside. People begin to imagine themselves doing the same. What's even more beautiful is how these returning communities are forming bridges between two worlds. They're not just moving away from America. They're building new identities as global citizens. They carry their culture, creativity, and values into African communities, and in return, they receive belonging, respect, and an understanding that transcends race. Some skeptics argue that moving to Africa won't fix the deep wounds of racism or inequality. And they're right. It won't fix everything. But it's not about running away from problems. It's about choosing peace over pain. It's about choosing connection over confusion. For many African Americans, it's about reclaiming agency over their lives after centuries of being told where they could live, how they should act, and who they should be. In Africa, there's a certain calmness in the air. The sense of time feels different, slower, more human. People take breaks to talk, to laugh, to share food. Community means everything, and that is something many African Americans say they've been missing for years. A sense of unity and family that's hard to find in the fast-paced, often isolating life of the United States. Families who once felt trapped in cycles of stress now find joy in simple moments. Children grow up surrounded by people who look like them in positions of power: teachers, doctors, business owners, presidents. That representation does something profound. It builds confidence. It reminds them that blackness isn't a limitation, it's strength. And when you listen to the stories of those who have moved, you can hear a mix of relief and hope in their voices. Some describe crying the moment their feet touched African soil. Others say they never realized how heavy the weight of racism was until they finally set it down. They speak about peace not as a luxury, but as something they finally feel they deserve. This wave of migration is changing perceptions, not just of Africa, but of what it means to belong. The media has often painted Africa as poor, chaotic, or dangerous, but those who move there see something different. They see innovation, resilience, beauty, and growth. They see opportunity. They see home. It's also reshaping the narrative of what it means to be African American. No longer just descendants of a painful past, they're becoming part of Africa's future. The continent is rich with culture, resources, and potential, and now its sons and daughters from across the ocean are returning, not as victims of history, but as partners in building something new. Each move tells a story of courage. It's not easy to leave everything behind: the comfort, the familiarity, the idea of home. But sometimes, home isn't where you were born. It's where your soul finally rests. And for thousands of African Americans, that place just happens to be across the Atlantic, where the sun feels warmer, the air feels freer, and the spirit finally feels whole. For many African Americans, the decision to move to Africa isn't just about geography. It's about soul. It's a quiet longing to reconnect with something deeper, a something that feels almost spiritual. Generations have passed since their ancestors were taken from the continent, leaving behind stories, traditions, and languages that were nearly erased. Yet somehow, that connection never fully disappeared. It lived on in the rhythm of music, in the strength of family, in the way community still means everything. When people step foot in Africa for the first time, there's a sense of recognition that words can't explain. The air feels different, the colors richer, the faces familiar in a way that feels like coming home after centuries away. It's emotional, sometimes overwhelming, to realize that this is where it all began. Many describe walking through villages or cities and feeling a pull in their chest, a quiet whisper saying, "You belong here." Reconnecting with ancestral roots isn't just about learning history, it's about healing it. It's about filling the empty spaces left by time and pain with something warm, real, and deeply human. For many, that's a piece they never knew they were missing until they found it in Africa. For so many African Americans, life in the United States can feel like an endless uphill climb. No matter how hard they work or how much they achieve, there's often a quiet tension that never fades. A constant awareness of being judged, misunderstood, or unsafe simply because of the color of their skin. That kind of pressure wears on the soul. It drains joy from the simplest things and turns everyday life into a balancing act between strength and survival. The dream of equality feels distant, buried under years of headlines, protests, and painful experiences that never seem to change much. So when people choose to leave, it isn't about giving up. It's about breathing again. It asks about finding peace in places where they don't have to explain their existence or prove their worth. In Africa, they find freedom in blending in being surrounded by people who share their skin tone and history. There's relief in walking through streets without feeling watched or out of place. That calm, That ease of being is priceless. For many, it's the first time in there. If this story spoke to something deep inside you, if it made you feel seen, inspired, or even just curious about what is really happening across the ocean, then just scroll away, hit that subscribe button, and join a growing community that's exploring the truth behind Africa's rise and the journeys of those finding home again. Drop a comment and share what you think about this powerful return movement. And if you believe more people need to hear stories like this, give it a like. It helps the message reach further and keep these conversations alive.